Hey, this is Eli Campbell. You know, Steamboat is renowned worldwide for skiing, biking, and all that our natural playground has to offer. We're fortunate, though, that the natural beauty here attracts more than just outdoor enthusiasts. From local legends to world-class acts, amazing musicians regularly play the venues in our little corner of Northwest Colorado. Join me as I explore the stories and experiences of these talented artists who bring unforgettable performances to Steamboat. This is your Steamboat Sound Check. Welcome to the Steamboat Sound Check podcast, presented by McCreight Progressive Dentistry. Today, as part of our series highlighting the musicians coming to WinterWonderGrass, February 28th through March 2nd, a former Steamboat Springs resident coming back to town, whether it's the Yampa Valley Curse pulling you in or just the magic of WinterWonderGrass. We're thrilled to have you returning at the end of the month. Dave Carroll, better known as Banjo Dave from Trampled by Turtles. How's it going?
It's going very well. I don't know what. It's got to be all of the above, the Curse and the WinterWonderGrass, and all my friends are here. So,
yeah, I mean, I joked about it, but you know, you've lived here in Steamboat, and then you moved back to Minnesota, where you're from. But do you buy into this idea that there's a Yampa Valley Curse? The idea that you're always drawn to return? Does it pull at you?
Yeah, I do. I kind of know I'll be back here eventually, whether it's living permanently or temporarily or visiting. When I left, there was like a lot of reasons. Just a lot of touring was made pretty difficult with the travel. My family's there. My folks are in the cities. My nieces. So I went back there and knowing that I would be able to come out here just with the job that I have, it would allow me to travel. So it still was sad to leave and still a hard, decision, but I feel good about it, but I'm really happy to be back. And I know that I'll always kind of gravitate here. And so I do think there's a little bit of curse. It'd be different if it was like the curse of Des Moines. No offense, Des Moines. I love you. But, Steamboat's got a lot going for it. So,
yeah, of course. And what was it that drew you to Steamboat to begin with?
Well, I met a lady. Classic story. Yeah, came out here, became friends with a lot of people that just were into things that I hadn't experienced living in Minnesota. I used to live in Duluth. A lot of really cool camping and hiking in Duluth. And the Twin Ports area, Minnesota in general, beautiful. And but when I came out here, I connected with a group of friends who I know are like my lifelong friends now, and they kind of changed my life pretty, in a significant way. I got really into skiing. I knew I had skied growing up, but not like this. You're learning on ice mountains and little hills in Minnesota. So I had a lot of friends that were really into skiing, and it became apparent very quickly that I needed to get better in order to keep up with them and not hold them back. So got better at skiing, and then, summers came around and people were going on rafting trips, and like, you got to come on a rafting trip. And I got convinced to buy a raft. It wasn't really hard to convince me. Like, I knew I wanted to be on the rivers, and just in general, also mountain biking. So like those kind of three things really are Steamboat has to offer in the surrounding area. And it just kind of it changed my life, just wanting to do these things, wanting to be healthy, to be able to do these things. So I was thankful that I met all those guys.
It's a classic come for the winter, stay for the summer type of idea where a lot of people are drawn here because of the ski resort, but you realize the summers here are just as amazing. My dad, actually, he grew up in Minnesota and moved out to Colorado after high school, and said once he realized that the sun could shine in the winter, he was never going to go back.
Yeah.
Obviously, you did end up going back to Minnesota. And it's where Trampled by Turtles was formed over 20 years ago there in the Duluth area. Certainly you're appreciated in your home state, but not even sure if you're aware of this. According to Spotify, you have more listeners here in Colorado than you do anywhere else in the world. Now that you've lived here, you get the lifestyle, you get the culture. What do you think it is about Trampled by Turtles music that connects so strongly with the Colorado fans?
Well, I feel like Colorado's always been a pretty um, popular, I guess, like the music, bluegrass music in general has always been pretty popular around here. Kind of the bands paving that way, like Yonder Mountain and String Cheese from here. We never grew up. Anybody in Trampled by Turtles we didn't really grow up listening to bluegrass music. I knew of these bands in Colorado that were happening, and I was fans, and I would travel out here to see music like that. But when we started, we didn't really know what bluegrass was. Um, and as we were playing shows in the region and knowing that this is something kind of special, we really connected with people in Minnesota, but knowing that we have to play outside of the region to grow. So I think we had a very, very close friend of ours in the very beginning. His name's Scott Nelson. He had a pizza joint that we got like a two times a month, every other Wednesday. We'd play at his pizza shop, and we get paid a few bucks, and they give us a like bottle of Jameson, and he was a big supporter of us. And when we were like, we want to go play outside of the Wisconsin, Minnesota area, he helped set up some shows in Colorado, and he gave us like $300 cash for gas, packed this cooler, big giant cooler full of like sandwich cold cuts and PBR, and helped book a few shows. One in Denver. I think our first show was the open mic night at the Mishawaka, and we played for the sound guy, which was a friend of ours. That's how we got that gig. But that was sort of the first place that we started coming to regularly, and we connected with people here, thankfully. And I don't know if it's because they were already aware of that type of music or what, but we're really thankful that we did, because that kind of created enough, like we had a buzz going here where we would come here and then be able to continue on farther out to the West Coast. So yeah, Colorado has always been kind of our one of our best states and one of our favorite states to come play.
I think one of the other things that's kind of unique about Colorado, specifically the mountain towns, is we draw in so many people from wide varieties of backgrounds and locations, all coming together for this lifestyle. And you mentioned it, Trampled by Turtles, not necessarily a bluegrass band in the sense that you weren't necessarily fans or bluegrass musicians. You had that wide background of punk and rock influences. Can you talk a little bit about how that has shaped your sound and helped set you apart over the last couple decades?
Well, yeah, none of us are traditionalists. I don't play banjo with the Scruggs style 3-finger picks, or even the old timey. It's not foreign to me. I know what's happening, and I can play a little bit. But I basically sort of lied to the guys, just basically saying like, "Hey, I play banjo," when really I had a banjo, and I knew like 3 chords. Our guitar player grew up listening to Nirvana and other punk bands and grunge like that. Bob Dylan. Our bass player is a Beatles fan. Our fiddle player, I mean, it's been said before, he used to play drums in a speed metal band. His background's just all over the place, and like our mandolin player is a huge Black Sabbath fan. So we all kind of had these different influences, but we were like, well, let's look at this book. Like and Dave had some originals. I don't know if he wrote those after he got his electric gear stolen, but however that worked, he had acoustic guitar and had some originals and wanted to play. So he was playing with our mandolin player, who only had a mandolin because everybody else had a guitar. And he was just like, well, I'll do something different. And I saw those guys playing, and they're covering some old Dead tune at a bar. And I was like, man, I could play along with these guys with a banjo. And so we all just kind of piecemealed this thing together, not knowing what we were doing, and kept playing, connected. had a really good time doing it. And so I like, yeah, we don't have that bluegrass background, but whatever it is, all of our influences kind of helped what our sound is today, which is a little bit different than the traditional.
Kind of the idea of fake it till you make it. You don't really know what you've got, but you're coming together and it starts to sound good. It gets you out on the road. You're touring relentlessly, but I've read that you're kind of a person who likes to really appreciate the simple, more grounded life. It's probably one of the things that drew you to Steamboat Springs. So how do you balance the tour schedule without burning out and kind of still holding true to that simple, grounded life?
When we first started playing, we were all young, well, youngish. I mean, I was 20 when we started, so I couldn't even drink legally in the bars. But we kind of started playing more shows, and I never had this thought of like, man, I want to go on tour forever. I want to be on the road forever. I want to live my life on the road. I just wanted to play with people, and so I had never had a band. This is my very first band, and we started getting kind of busy. And then our mandolin player was going to have a kid, and so sat us down. He was like, "Hey guys, like I'm gonna have a kid," and we were like, "All right, like how can we keep doing this and make you happy? Like how can we work this out where everyone's happy?" And so we came up with a kind of just a game plan. General rule of our band was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So we wouldn't be burning ourselves out on the road, and the families at home would see their families, see the dads coming back. And I think that really helped out. I think what happens is a lot of bands will start touring, and maybe and nowadays it's different with like YouTube or TikTok, is you become world famous, massive in a second. And now you're like, here's a tour bus, here's 80 people on a crew, here's a stadium, it's filled, by the way. And so you're touring, you're nonstop. And that doesn't happen for everyone, but sort of the thing that can happen, I think, is you're all of a sudden not used to just playing nonstop, and you're on the road for 3-4 months, and then it implodes. You just kind of go crazy, whether that's you're away from home and you're not used to it, or you're partying too much, or just many different factors from being away from what you're normally used to. And I think that our 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off kind of formula has really helped us, because we get really excited to go on the road, and then when we're on the road, we get excited to come home, and then it just keeps happening. We get more gigs, we get excited to leave, excited to go home. We get along really well when we're on the road, and when we're off the road. Now that I'm back in Minnesota, and even before when I moved out here, everyone was kind of scattered about. So when everyone's off the road, they're with their families and their friends and doing their thing that makes them happy. And then they get to go back on the road, and they have a lot of fun doing it. So
I've had an opportunity to talk to some of those musicians that have had that like overnight success sensation from the viral power of TikTok or social media. And it is certainly an interesting way that the music industry has evolved over the last 5 or 10 years.
yeah,
You guys still are staying true to kind of putting out the music, not necessarily because it's might be viral or anything like that, but putting out music that is truly true to Trampled by Turtles. One of the things that you did last fall was you released the Always Here EP, which it turned out was just half of kind of a unique two-part project, with bandmate Dave Simonette's side project, Dead Man Winter, releasing the same 5 songs in a more rock-oriented fashion. His EP on that side was called Always Now. I heard that when you were doing this project, you weren't really aware that the other EP was in the works. Is that true? And do you think it would have changed anything that how you approached it when you were kind of coming together?
actually, no. And maybe I'm unaware, but Dave had that idea for kind of a long time. He wanted to like release a set of tunes that we recorded with Trampled and with Dead Man Winter. Um, or maybe it was that he was writing, like sometimes he writes songs for a specific thing, and then all of a sudden he'll be like, well, I want to try this with Trampled. But when we were recording it, we were aware, I was aware that he was going to record those with Dead Man Winter. But that, I don't think either band was influenced by that knowledge, because when we're in the studio with Trampled this time with these 5 songs, the EP Always Here, it wasn't, there wasn't anything different. We've been going to a studio down in southern Minnesota for the past few records called Pachyderm. Nirvana recorded In Utero there. That's like one of the more famous bands that recorded there. But it's a really, really great kind of escape. You're not in a big city, so you don't finish recording and leave and go to your car and drive home. You basically live there and work there for the duration of the session. And so this was no different. We moved into the house and walked over 50 yards through the woods to the studio, and we set up in a circle, or like, just around the room where we can all see each other. And we just started playing them. And a few of them we had been working on the road, learning them, so that we had some idea. And maybe a couple of them were maybe finished right before, or maybe we just kind of arranged them in the studio, similarly to the previous albums. Some of them we know, some of them we've played before, not only like backstage, but maybe even live, but that's more of a rare thing. We'll usually kind of work them all out and then release them before playing them. But this was, very similar. And yeah, I like the way that we do it, where we sit down and sometimes we're learning them and sometimes we know, and just the magic, or whatever you call it. I don't want to call it magic, but just we've known each other for so long that we can just sit down and Dave can start playing and everyone just kind of listens to what he's doing and maybe starts noodling in with something or have an idea, and then you work it out, and then, we play it through, and sometimes we hit record, and by the first or second take, sometimes that's what's on the record.
I like that you were able to clear up the rumors that I had read on the internet. It's nice to be able to catch the truth from the actual people that were involved. But another similar thing that you guys were doing last month, you just released a wonderful cover of Bon Iver's For Emma with Sumbuck, which is a campside project.
Yeah.
What inspired you to interpret that song? It's got such a history in kind of the indie folk genre, and it's held in such high regard. So what was the inspiration behind taking that on and kind of putting your own fresh perspective on it?
I didn't know that song. Sorry. But I think Taylor was the one that was like, hey, let's do this. We had an idea to just get a bunch of our friends at some point in the studio with us, and we knew this wasn't going to be a thing where we would be able to block a month and have each person come in on 2 days and do it all at once. So right now we're kind of in the thing where we're like, we have ideas of people that we want to record with and have them come in and they'll sing the song and we'll be their backing band. And this was one of the first ones where, and eventually maybe we'll have the collection of them and we'll release it as something. But right now it's just sort of as they come, then we work with their team and we figure out when's a good time to release this, and just keeping new music coming out. But Taylor, I think that was Taylor's idea. And we're all fans of Bon Iver, but having him come in and just, he was the one that wanted to sing that. And it's a pretty cool process. It's pretty relaxed. We all it's very similar to, like I was saying with Champo, where we don't have the arrangement right away. We don't even know exactly if we're going to do it just like the recording or something like that. It could also be that somebody comes in, like if Taylor was like, I wrote this song, let's do this one that I recorded. That would be great. We would do whatever they feel like they want to do, and we'll just back them up. That was a really fun evening of just getting in there and kind of everyone sitting around and throwing ideas out there, and then starting it and playing it through, and then being like, well, let's change this part, or let's add this part, or maybe we'll add some, once the basic songs are done, what background vocals do we want to do, or if there is percussion, and so it's a really fun process taking one song and with a new, energy, a new person that we've toured with Taylor and Camp before and Sumbuck, so we kind of knew him and were friends with him before. So, but never in a studio setting. So it was pretty cool to just sit down and work that song out, and I think it turned out really well. It was cool.
I think it's really beautiful, and maybe it was helpful that you weren't too familiar with the song, because then
Oh
you're
yeah,
able to really put your own fresh perspective on it.
yeah. I think for me, there's less pressure. Especially if there's some like random, very specific banjo part, which thankfully there's not in a lot of things that we do. So I kind of have some freedom where I can just write my own little thing or write my own parts and add to it.
Well, hopefully we'll get to hear a little bit of that, or always hear, of course, the classic Trampled by Turtles when you're here in Steamboat at the end of the month playing Winter Wondergrass. What
Yeah,
are you most looking forward to about returning to Steamboat and playing here?
man, that show it's one of the most. I'll say like this has happened a couple different times from the various Winter Wondergrasses we played. I've had the most challenging show of my life and the most fun show of my life. And the challenging one was in 2021, I think, the last time we played Steamboat. And I might be wrong by a year, but I'm pretty sure it was 21. It was like 4 degrees. It happened to be warm all winter, and then boom, Winter Wondergrass, cold snap. Uh, I mean, they give you heaters on stage, but the instruments go out of tune so badly if you have a heater blasting, and then you like move away for a second and cold air comes in. So we tend to turn the heaters off. But like challenging, I didn't have a bad time. It was wild just seeing like everyone's breath, like just the steam rising off the crowd, and just kind of you're sitting there, you're looking out of this town, and then I've lived there for so long and recognizing people, but generally this like, man, people love music so much, they love Steamboat so much, they love being outside, listening to music, each other. It's a pretty cool experience to see and to be able to be playing for them. And yeah, it was really, really cold, but everyone's like so tight, together. Hopefully they're staying warm, and hopefully, we're playing some slow songs, but you just sway with your people, and then the like the most fun was when we were in. I think it was then we took a year off, and the following year, 23, the 2 years after that one, we were in Tahoe. And it was like, man, the weather looks really nice. It's going to be, warm, 25 or something. And then right before we started, the blizzard came, and it was like the biggest snowflakes I've ever seen. And I just remember looking down during like one song and looking down, and just the lip of the banjo is like filling with snow. And you could hardly see all of our pedal boards are filling up with snow. And we're just like sitting there catching snowflakes on our tongues, and like also smiling and looking like, well, this is a totally different outdoor experience. It's not as cold, but it's snowing crazily, and it is equally as awesome. So
I've had this conversation with Scotty before. I've had it in other interviews, how if we're having a bad snow year in Steamboat, we just need to get Scotty to organize more Winter Wondergrasses, because it's
yeah,
always going to bring cold and snow. And so that's something that you just have to come into the festival expecting. You
yep,
guys are no strangers to the festival scene. You play so many. Later this year, you're going to be at Willie Nelson's Outdoor Music Fest. You've got the Outside Festival, Extra Innings right before you come to Steamboat.
mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're all unique in their own sense, but something special about Winter Wondergrass is that community and family feel. Do you as a musician feel that as well compared to some of the other festivals that you play, just the kind of sense of family reunion that this festival brings about?
Yeah, and I think that's Scotty's and Mike's like their vision is more family. Everyone's welcome. Like you see parents out there holding their kids dressed up in their snow suits, and it's just a little bit more. I mean, it can be a rowdy time. There's like late night stuff that happens, but that out the tents and the main stage stuff happening, um, being that it's geared, I mean, it's geared towards everyone. Anybody can go there and have a good time, and you can be a parent and bring your kid there. My friends Mike and Kelly had just had their kid several months ago, back in July, and they're really excited to get to bring their little Mac to this outside show. And she's like, yeah, it's like, I'm excited for a different reason this year. Is that, you know, before was like, yeah, going to meet up with your friends and party and have a good time and watch music, and now you get to like show this experience to your little kid. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, it's different. You know, some of the bigger ones that are, you know, so huge and hot, and people are just kind of going crazy, and it's a little like, yeah, that might not be so family oriented. Not that it's not fun for the people that are there, but it just has this kind of this vibe of the spirits are up, man. Whether the weather's cold or snowing, it just is a different energy and a different feel, real uplifting, and
Yeah.
we're lucky that they keep putting them on, and we're lucky that they keep inviting us back.
Yeah, and you know, it is. My kids have come to every Winter Wondergrass for the last 5 or so years, and the kids' tent and everything that they have there to accommodate a family atmosphere is amazing. Want to thank you so much for taking some time this morning, and I believe, I don't know if that was your dog Truck that his tail
Oh,
was kind of fitting
yeah.
into the scene there a little bit. I know that he travels with you quite a bit. Maybe we'll get to see him at Winter Wondergrass this year as well, but
Yeah,
thank
hopefully.
you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to talk to you, and we'll see you at Winter Wondergrass for sure.